Hey, Rickard, how are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
I am doing well.
Great.
The other guys will be here in a moment. They're finishing the Browns game. Browns Pittsburgh.
Oh,
There's Dreadbull. I
yeah.
must be DVRing it.
The only reason you got me early is the Cowboys are blowing out the Carolina Panthers, so there's not much going on there. So
All right. Well, the Browns look good the first half, Dreadbull.
Yeah, yeah. Pittsburgh adjusted and we did not readjust.
Yeah, well, they had a couple shitty calls not go their way.
Yeah.
That doesn't help when you have a clear safety not being called.
oh
Yeah,
wow,
I don't know why they didn't challenge that.
Yeah, they should have. Yep.
Chop Top coming in.
He should. I
I
have
mean,
not.
I didn't see the call, but I totally agree with you guys.
There you go. All right. That's the way to do it. Because last time we were together, Rickard, you had to take Mark to the airport, so we didn't get a chance to get to hang out with you.
Yeah, and I was trying to think exactly timing wise when that was. I mean, um,
Let's see.
it was when Mark was. I think it was when Mark was out here and we were wrapping up the documentary stuff. I think that's when it
Yeah, it
was.
was the whole band was
Yeah.
on. I'm gonna pull up and see when I got it. I keep track of all that stuff. Yeah, July
It
16th.
was.
God, time's going fast.
I know
It
it's
does,
crazy,
man.
right?
It's crazy. The fact I'm putting up Christmas decorations this year. I haven't put up Christmas decorations in I don't know how many years. And this year I got a wild hair up my rear end. I'm gonna get some of those laser display light stuff. And oh yeah, I'm approaching it totally the way a light technician would approach it. Like how would it look? In a very geeky manner for sure.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah.
So, are you a big
No,
celebrator?
no Halloween. No, not really. To be honest with you, not really. I mean, but I don't know. This year just felt like, why not?
With the big
Why
beard, you
not?
kind of got a heavy metal Santa kind of look going for you. So
Dude! I could probably be raking in the bucks if I was willing to go and have kids sitting on my lap and telling them what they want for Christmas.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's a Santa College. Way back in the day, I had a long beard and long hair when I was shooting some movies, and I'd consider going to Santa College because Santas can make big
Uh
bucks.
huh.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
yeah,
They, they can make like a year's worth of pay in just a few months. Yeah.
yeah, and if you do like a Christmas Eve event, like at a corporate gig, you're talking sometimes $5,000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh
for a
yeah.
couple hours. It's crazy. But when I suggested doing a Santa Claus for sororities, college sororities, that's when Mrs. Montag just put the
Uh,
kibosh on the whole thing.
yeah,
They
vetoed that
Just had
idea.
to go and ruin it.
your your Santa privileges were revoked at that point.
Yeah, I thought, well, hey, I can do that. I can bring some candy canes and you know, but
Well, you know,
And some harassment charges.
right.
one of the one of the cool things about, I mean, you were asking me if I celebrate big, and it's like, not really, but I very much celebrate a Swedish Christmas still to this day because I was born in Sweden. I was raised with Yule as opposed to Christmas, and it's so interesting that you look at all the European and even the Scandinavian countries, and Sweden's hung on to its kind of more pagan kind of festive followings because Yule really has nothing to do with the birth of Christ. It has to do with more along the lines of the winter solstice and the Yule log and kind of that approach to Christmas. And certainly there's some commercialism that's broken into it, but it's interesting when you go around a village in Sweden and so forth, you'll see more about the Christmas goat, the Yule book, more than you'll see anything about nativity scenes and so forth. And
Hmm.
how much more metal can you get than we don't have Santa Claus. We have a gnome that rides a sled with two wolves pulling it.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
how much more
that's
metal is
awesome.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
I
great.
love I love
That's the
crump.
Christmas I want.
Yeah, I love Krampus. You know,
Yeah.
uh, you
exactly.
know, Yeah, Krampus and
Well,
and
it has a lot of
Belsnickel,
that
those.
vibe, right? It has a
Yeah,
lot of that
exactly.
vibe. I
Yeah,
totally get
the Germanic, Swedish, the walking through the streets and getting rounding up all the bad kids and hitting them with sticks and
Oh yeah.
dunking them in ink.
Yeah.
That's my kind of Christmas.
Christmas here is kind of like cartoony now. It's just so lame. It's kind of lame in the U.S. and so commercial. I mean, my God, I saw the first Christmas commercial the day after Halloween. Is
Yeah.
Yep.
instantly they instantly jump right the day after
Yeah,
Halloween.
it used to
It's
be the day
everywhere.
after Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving, kind of
Well, they
launched.
changed the rule at some point in
Yeah,
time. That
it's
that
more
rule
money.
changed.
Yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah. Well,
So
Dreadbull, I just got a text from Chop Top. He's not going to be able to make it. So, but
Okay.
yeah. But anyway, well, at least you have the best of the three, Rikard.
exactly.
You don't have to
Well,
worry.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Good thing. we still have a three. We still have a quorum. We still have a good base. You can make a good chair out of a
Yeah.
three-legged
Yeah.
object. So yeah, we're good.
He would just drag us down with his cowbell anyway. So
Yeah, exactly. Right. You have the real talent is here.
Right.
So
We won't have to carry him.
Right. Yeah. That's why we're slumped
That's
over.
awesome.
Our backs are
That's
hurting
awesome.
from carrying Chop Top the last 2 years.
Hey, thanks for the hat, by the way, guys.
Oh, you
Thanks.
are welcome.
I ended up taking the toot, to use a Canadian term. I ended up taking the toot. So, which with any luck, I won't have to use it here in Arizona. That's for sure. But who knows?
Arizona, nice.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a good show. I mean, I know your U.S. appearances are rare, and I had to come out and see you guys. It's like I drove out. My wife and I left. We left early Friday morning, and drove, to Wisconsin, which was about 9.5 hours, and then I got to the venue about 15 minutes before it opened, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But I had to come and see you. It was
And
really good.
I have to say, did I end up doing a drive-by with you? Did I walk right by you at the bar? Were you talking to Ken, or did we even get
I went up, and I wasn't at the bar, but I saw Ken kind of come back, where the artists were, and came out and he saw me and waved. So I went out and talked to him.
Okay.
I don't know if you walked by. I didn't go to the other side other than to grab a chair. I grabbed a nice comfy chair to sit on, and it just,
My apologies. I tended to sit backstage most of the time and just kind of hung out. There was a lot going on back there. There was a lot of interesting people. So
there are a lot of good bands, yeah. Some of the other than you, I mean, we had interviewed Haunt, the guitarist and singer for Haunt, but the other bands I didn't know about. And I was so impressed with Solicitor, and Violence. I'm like, oh my God, those guys just tore it up.
Dude, I've been a Violence fan. I told those guys, I said, dude, I don't know if you remember this gig, but the Rainbow Music Hall in Denver, Colorado, it was you guys, Testament, Voivod, and I think the Crumbsuckers were opening up. Also, I mean, it was just an insane lineup. And I was hanging out right before the show, and the guys in Violence, with their drummer, I actually chatted him up for probably a half an hour, but obviously they had a young gun. You can't play that kind of music anymore, being an old dude. I'm like, yeah, they got a young drummer like that. Yeah, sure enough, man, that drummer couldn't have been more than 23 that they had, but he was doing great. I mean, they sounded awesome.
Yeah, so, those guys are phenomenal. And Dreadbull, you got to do yourself a favor. Just look them up on YouTube and look up some live concerts. They're just, it's like punk thrash, like old school, just angry, fast.
It's got a really angry, in your face, we don't give a fuck about anything, right? It's got a real attitude, which I really like.
Yeah, totally. And it's I have really in this last year really started connecting with the underground metal scene, and I feel like so bad that I didn't even, I was just so ignorant of how big and wonderful this underground metal scene is, and seeing bands like Deceased, and Cleveland has a lot of really great underground metal. Ringworm, Nunslaughter, Midnight. I mean, these guys are just at the tops of their games, and just going out to see a whole bunch of new bands. Glacier is really good. We love Assault. Those guys are great. Just so many good bands. That's what's
Yeah.
exciting now, you know, and every one of
Well,
these bands I thought at Blades of Steel was great.
it's kind of crazy. Mark Brady and I have had this conversation on occasions because we've been around long enough now to see the resurgence of like true metal happen like twice now almost because we went through the whole era of grunge and all that stuff where that stuff just went away.
Yeah.
We were still kind of slugging through that stuff and so forth, and then we came out with Fourth Judgment at that time, and that was the same time that Hammerfall came out with, I think, Glory to the Brave, which all of a sudden had this huge insurgence of like true metal and power metal, and oh, that like this is like this new great thing. It's almost like it's happening again because you have all these like really young bands, like teenage kids
Mm-hmm.
playing like this true power metal kind of approach. And it is very interesting. And it makes you feel really old when you realize
Yeah,
you've almost seen this happen like twice in our lifetimes,
right. It's
where
happening
there's
all
just
over
like
again.
resurgence. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, but
exactly.
you guys have been around and survived it all, so hey, testament to you guys, you know.
How the hell? Yeah, I mean, I think I think it has everything to do with the fact that we really enjoy each other's company. Period. Anyway, I mean, the fact that we're in a band together is just a bonus. But I mean, if you were to ask me, you know, if you had to pick a few people in this world who you'd want to take a vacation with or go hang out with, the guys in the band would be certainly some of those people you'd want to hang out with. Harry can get a little bit intolerable after a while, but that's just with every darn lead singer. They just get a little bit out of control after a while. So you're just like, okay, that's enough. That's enough.
He still
That's
has
enough.
great hair though, you know? So
Oh, dude, that guy
yeah,
has amazing hair. Are you
yeah,
kidding me?
yeah.
Jesus. I
And
mean,
and what I loved about
that
watching,
dude must drink the blood of virgins because
yeah,
there's no there's no way that dude is in his 60s. I mean,
yeah,
he
no,
just, I mean,
his voice sounds better than it ever
It
has.
makes you wonder.
It's just scary. And I love
it,
the way watching you play drums. You were just sitting back, and at times I just see hair and I don't see much movement because you're a very relaxed player. And it was almost like watching Cousin It just play drums. And
you know,
I thought this was so fantastic. Just watching you back there playing these great rhythms. I'm like, fuck, man, Rikard's just killing it. And he's just sitting there like, yeah, just having a good time. It's just awesome.
I have to be honest with you. I think, if you look at footage of me when I was younger, I would just absolutely beat a drum set in submission every night. I would literally abuse it by just playing as hard as I possibly can. And I really felt that that was somehow part of just being a drummer. That was that you provide that kind of energy. And it's so interesting because after watching videos and hearing other drummers talk about really how you have a long career as a drummer and so forth, you have to learn how to play more with economy, I guess is the best way to talk about it. And I mean, I know Neil went and kind of relearned how to play drums when he learned to play, and he actually did a whole recording cycle and recorded, I think it was Vapor Trails in a,
Right.
he was playing completely traditional, right?
Right,
On that,
right.
on
Yeah.
that
He
stuff.
learned from
Right?
a
Yeah.
jazz, Gruber. Yeah. Went back and like learned like
So
jazz rudiments all over again.
so it is really interesting that you mentioned that because I would say that I've put a lot of emphasis on trying to play more relaxed and just trying and playing within that kind of that more relaxed space. And I actually have found that there's so much more you can do as a player when you're in that mode, right? As opposed to I feel like somehow I have to like make the drums jump out of the PA system. Let the PA system do the work. Let
Right,
let the
right.
sound man do the work. I don't need to be working that hard to getting it to sound the way I want it to sound.
Yeah. And
So,
there are some
um,
drummers who,
yeah.
because I'm a drummer, there are some drummers who are just naturally heavy. Like I think Mickey D. He's like, I think maybe
Oh yeah.
my favorite power drummer, and he just is bludgeon those things, but that's his style. It's just who he is as a drummer, and he's phenomenal at it, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Mickey D's one of my. I mean, I've been following Mickey D since he was with King Diamond,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of those. I mean, I don't know if you could tell, but I've certainly ripped off a number of Mickey D kind of stylings in what I do because I love those kind of mid-tempo double bass reverse beats that he does, right? So it's that whole where he just like, okay, the snare is going to fall on the upbeat now as opposed to the down, but it provides this just amazing like pummeling kind of approach, but yet it has this wonderful nuance by just moving the snare around and where it's landing. So,
well, that's awesome. Well, we're going to talk all about your
uh,
influences. I guess we should probably get the show started officially, and we're going
we're
to
not
have
officially
Whatever.
we're recording, but we're not official.
Oh, okay.
But that's good. We have a wonderful intro. It's the favorite thing here.
Okay.
I know it's Dreadbull's
Oh, it's
favorite
so
thing.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh.
here we go. All right.
Hey guys, this is Glenn from Volcana, and you're listening to Heavy Metal Horror.
I am Montag, master of illusion. What goes up must come down, but not always.
Hey, and I'm Dreadbull, not Chop Top. Who needs him?
That's right,
Good
nobody.
riddance.
And you were watching and listening to Heavy Metal Horror. Oh, kiddies. Tonight we are bringing back Rikard Stjernquist, drummer extraordinaire for the mighty Jag Panzer. Rikard, welcome back to Heavy Metal Horror.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I know last time we had a chance to meet, I had to grab Mark and run to the airport, so we didn't really get a chance to really dive into anything. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat. So.
And
Well,
word
this is
is you
good.
have lots of great stories, so we're looking forward to those.
Yeah, and we have a
You're a great
few things in
storyteller.
common that we'll talk about as we get down the road. So yeah, that's what we've heard some good things about you from some of the other band members. I won't name them by name, but you might know them from your work. Well, let's start. We always like to get a little background with our guests. So let's start a little bit with some basic and broad questions. When did you first get into music?
Wow. I mean, I come from a very musical family. My father was a jazz drummer, so there is still to this day a jazz quartet in the southern part of Sweden that has the last name the Stjernquists, which is my last name. Even though he has not been in the band for decades, he decided to go engineering school instead, which thank God for that because that allowed me to have, I think, the music career that I have. But so there was musical instruments around our house from the time of I was a little toddler. My parents have pictures of me banging on different assorted drums or pots and pans as diapered a diapered child, I should say, in Sweden prior to even immigrating to the United States. But the first drum set I got, I was I think 12 years old. It was a blue sparkle Sears kit used that we found in a newspaper, and I talked my father into let me borrow the $150, I think it was, to buy it, and that was my first drum set, and that actually took place in, of all places, Plano, Texas,
Oh.
and Texas is kind of interesting because about this exact same time, there was a couple of brothers, probably just a few miles away from where we lived, the Abbott brothers, who were doing their musical thing about the same time. Getting their roots started in that same neck of the woods of Texas. So
You don't still have that Sears kit, do you?
but no, it's embarrassed to say that I sold it or actually traded it to another drummer buddy of mine who was more my senior. He was a few years older than me. His name was Mouse Mosley, and as far as I was concerned, he was the greatest drummer on the face of the earth at that time because I mean he did things that I couldn't figure out. and I needed new drum heads for a new kit that I'd gotten, and the only way that I could get the new drum heads was to actually trade him that Blue Sparkle Sears kit for all new heads for my kit. It was probably not a great trade. I wish I still had it, but I mean, yes, I wish I still had that kit. But I got to be honest with you, it was a big piece of shit because they didn't make student drums very good back then. And I remember, you want to hear some stories? I remember playing that drum set and the hi-hat cymbals that came with it. If I played it too hard, they would invert. They would pop up, and I would have to stop playing and force them back. So they went to China hi-hats all of a sudden if I pushed down too hard.
Nice. You could have invented something.
Right.
Well, I think people are doing that kind of stuff now with stacking and all that kind of stuff, where they're putting all kinds of different, thin kind of China type small cymbals along with heavier cymbals to give that rattle kind of thing. But that's not what I was going for. These things sounded like complete garbage. But hey, it gave me a chance to, play, and I would play along with rock records and all that stuff, and certainly Holy Diver was one of the, I can remember one of the first albums that I probably banged along with that kit specifically, right? That was probably in that time frame. But the story I was going to tell you was about that kit, the throne that came with it. I was playing viciously after school like I would every day for hours until I just couldn't play anymore. And I was in a particular frenzy when the little pipe that holds the seat to the stool, actually sheared off. It was like some kind of pot metal. And I actually rolled out the plate glass window in my bedroom.
Oh.
Ended up in the front yard. Through the bushes, ended up in the front yard. Mind you, I didn't have a scratch on me. I mean, I didn't hurt myself. I mean, I could have cut off a limb.
Did the window just fall out in a whole piece? Did it just like the plane just fall out?
I mean, it just sort of fell all around me. Like it just.
Oh, wow.
How the angle that I felt, I just kind of rolled through it. And there was nothing apparently and I didn't flail. I just kind of rolled. I don't know how it was. That's going to look interesting on the film. But yes, but I was disappointed only because I felt like I needed to have a little bit of damage to explain this to my parents, because I felt like a little blood probably would have gone a long way in that situation. So, but
nice.
No, so I mean, that was kind of my world for such a long time. And really, I didn't start playing in bands until I started playing in bands with my brother. And that was simply because we were forced to. We ended up moving back to Europe after being in the United States for a number of years. My father got a gig heading up a big division, or my dad was a pretty big shot in the high-tech space in TI at the time. And a lot of things that he would do would be like troubleshoot. So a specific area that was having problems, they'd send my dad in to basically fix things and run it until it got back on its toes, and then he would go somewhere else. So we ended up back in Europe for a period of time. And all of a sudden, that's when me and my brother kind of started the first band that I was ever in, this is a scoop for you guys. I don't think I've ever talked about this ever in any interview before, but that first band was a band in Stockholm, Sweden called Bronze Puppet. What a great name, right? Bronze Puppet.
Love those early band names.
Not as good as Silver Puppet, but hey, close.
Yeah, exactly. Not by a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
And a little bit off from Gold Puppet, but anyway. Yeah. So that was when I started playing. That was the first time I saw Iron Maiden. I got to see Iron Maiden on the second to the last tour, on the Killers tour with Paul Di'Anno. So it was the second to last time that Paul was singing with the band, and my brother had to talk me into going. I have to be honest with you. I had my heart set on buying Frank Zappa's Joe's Garage Acts 2 and 3, and that was what I wanted to spend my money on, but the tickets for the Iron Maiden show, which was months away at the time, had just gone on sale. It was at a place called Göta Lejon, which is a movie theater in Stockholm. And needless to say, he talked me into it, and I'm glad he did. So, shout out to my brother Patrick. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's
What a
cool.
show.
I doubt
And
too
it's
many.
so awesome if you guys can remember going. Yeah,
I doubt too many people can
Sorry about that.
say that they got to see Maiden live during the Paul Di'Anno era. That's awesome.
and it's crazy because I got to see Clive do a drum solo, which that was also amazing. And obviously, at that time, Clive became my favorite drummer. I wanted to be Clive Burr at that time. I wanted to wear my hair like Clive. I mean, I just thought Clive was just the greatest thing ever. And so it was devastating just a few years later when Clive was no longer the drummer. But I was going to joke with you guys if you remember the first real metal show that you went to, where you banged your head so hard that the next day you thought you permanently injured yourself because you can't hold your head up. You're like, oh God, I can't hold my head. Dude, I felt like that for 2 days after that Maiden show because it was the most amazing sight. It was just a full floor and a full balcony of just heads going in exact rhythm and just hair flying. That's all you could see. Everybody was like, nobody was watching the show. It was weird. Everyone was just like in their space, just like banging their head. It was the most amazing experience. Most amazing experience.
Yeah,
awesome.
Of course,
Maiden has always had obviously a great stage show, but like those early albums had a different kind of energy to them. And yeah, I would imagine seeing those live in a nice, more a smaller venue would have been an amazing thing to see.
Yeah. No opening band. I think they played everything they knew. I mean, literally, they played everything they knew. It was awesome. It was an awesome show.
Dreadbull got some damage at the first time we saw Maiden together. Remember, you weren't wearing any hearing protection and had something pop in his right ear.
Yeah, I felt like something popped. I swore I could feel like some kind of fluid coming out of my ear. That was a loud show.
Blood dripping from your ear.
And I had head banging neck cramps as the word when I saw it was the Clash of the Titans tour. It was Alice in Chains opening for Anthrax, Megadeth, and Slayer. And by the end of Slayer, that was the lineup. That's how it progressed. And I was sore for a couple days. I was just because my first time seeing Slayer, and I mean, it was just ferocious. And
you're not going to come out of that unscathed.
No. And if you come out of there not sore, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah. So, but now, Rikard, what attracted you to metal as a genre?
Well, it's interesting you asked because so going back to when I really started getting into music, and I was mentioning things like Frank Zappa being somebody I was really into early. I think that had a lot to do with, and as a musician, I think you gravitate to what you think is the most extreme a lot of times, and you covet those things. And I really thought that Frank Zappa's music, and certainly the rhythm section and all that stuff, was just so over the top. A huge Terry Bozzio fan, obviously. So I think I gravitated toward that kind of music for those reasons. It's funny. I have a much harder time today listening to that stuff than I did back then. Back then, I just found it to be this amazing cacophony of sound. How do they do that?
Some of it still works. I mean, he's a genius. Zappa's a musical genius.
Oh, no doubt.
And some of it's definitely the era, but some of it's translated. Like an album like Thing Fish doesn't quite translate in a lot of ways, but you still have songs like Easy Meat, which I think will always be played. I mean, that you could just send that out to space, and that's just one of those like Zappa tongue-in-cheek songs that are just going to live forever.
And so I think, and at that same time that all that stuff was cultivating, I was listening to the Police. I was listening to a lot of other kind of stuff. but that's when I was also listening to Iron Maiden, and Iron Maiden was introduced to me. And I have to be honest, it didn't grab me immediately. I didn't quite get it immediately, and I will say that openly because it just didn't strike me. It took me a little bit of time, but then uh, by the time, obviously, they came out with obviously Number of the Beast. I was fully on board at that point in time, and and I think I learned to appreciate, I think, metal because of its composition. It being so much more rooted in classical music, I think, on so many levels. And I'm a huge classical fan that I was able to connect those things very easily. And I just find it to be just such a an epic form of music and storytelling, and I love music that tells a story.
Yeah.
I mean, I love music that tells a story. So,
And
and I'm not
Maiden
a
is a
lyricist,
perfect band.
and I'm
Yeah.
not a big lyricist. But I love the music that takes you on a journey, I guess is
Mhm.
the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Maiden is that band. I mean, my
Yeah.
first track, Peace of Mind, was the first album I'd ever heard. And from that opening drum intro to Where Eagles Dare and those heavy bar chords, those heavy riffs, I'm like, oh my God. And realizing, oh, they're singing a song about the Alistair MacLean book. Oh, they have a song about Dune. Holy fuck, what is this band?
Yeah. How cool is
And
that? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I was sold, and I was sold.
Yeah.
Nothing like I'd heard it before. So yeah.
Yeah, I had the same experience with Maiden as you. Like, it didn't click with me immediately. Montag started listening to it. This is back in our teens. Like, yeah, we
Yeah.
started listening around the Live After Death, era, Power Slave era. So there would have been what, 85 or so,
85, right,
86.
Yeah.
right.
And he started playing some Live After Death, and like it just sounded kind of noisy to me. I wasn't my ears weren't tuned into metal quite yet, but then he starts telling me about the lyrics, and that's what hooked me. Like, oh shit, a song, Greek mythology or like Icarus and like Egyptian mythology and all this stuff, and that's what. And so when I first started listening to Maiden, I would just skip to the lyrics. I would just fast forward through the music, and then yeah, but eventually my ears started to tune in and really sort it all out, all the noise that you hear initially that most people probably.
It's funny that you use the term noise, because maybe that was the term that I would also use. That I think I found it to be noisy. You're right. I think that's a great way to describe it. But it's funny. I listen back on the music now, and I'm kind of like, how I couldn't have immediately just gravitated towards
Right.
it. I don't understand, but I just didn't get it. I just didn't get it. So yeah, that's interesting. But I mean, so certainly Maiden was one of the first things to bring me to metal, but then I went in full force. I mean, big Motorhead fan. Obviously I was living in Europe at the time when Saxon was coming up and so forth as well. So Saxon was also on that kind of echelon of bands that I was just absolutely enamored with, and still, I mean, to this day, I mean, the Police and all those bands are still huge parts. And it's funny when people say, who are some of your influences? Oh, I would say Stuart Copeland and the Police is a huge influence on what I do. You might not be able to hear it because I'm not doing like ska stuff and so forth, but I think it has more to do with kind of the feel and some of the composition that they do and how Stuart puts together his music and so forth. But that guy, to me, I find just amazing. And I'm a big proponent for if Rush ever does a tour under the name Rush, I think Stuart Copeland should be on the Skins, because that would be paying real tribute to Neil as well, because I think Stuart was one of his favorite drummers. So
yeah, I'd like to see them as Rash. That would be
Rash,
awesome.
right.
That would be the time to break it out, right? Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because some of my next questions were going to be about your influences and things like that. You've had such a long career. Who were, some of the musical heroes that you got to meet, and what was that meeting like, and how has that influenced how you respond or react to when fans want to meet you?
That's interesting. So I got a gig helping out helping out a senior, I guess a mentor kind of person who ran sound, did production work back in Colorado. And he had a chance to do sound and support for the Buddy Rich group, the Buddy Rich band coming to town. And this was, mind you, literally it must have been the last tour Buddy Rich did before he passed away. And being obviously a drummer, and my dad being a jazz drummer, I knew everything about Buddy Rich, and what I saw that night him play to this day. There's very few. Matter of fact, I can only think of one drummer off the top of my head that comes anywhere close to what Buddy Rich was doing with one hand.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing stuff with one hand that just blew me away. And I got to meet him after the show, and he blew me off. He just kind of, hey, take a hike, kid, that kind of thing. As he was too busy to chat with me, and that really bummed me out, right? And I had, but this guy's been and seen so much. I mean, I have to let that go. But the guy was an asshole first and foremost, and I think that's one of the things that I think about when I meet people, especially meet fans, is that this may be the only time I can make an impression on this person. I don't know if I'm ever going to have a chance to do that in person. So I always try to make it a positive experience. And I may not be having a great day, and there are times that I'm not having a great day. And boy, on tour lately, if you want to hear some stories about me not having a good day, it's been it's heavy lifting out there these days as a drummer, trying to make these tours work and deal with equipment that you don't know what you're getting each night and all that stuff. It's a challenge, but yeah. So as tough as it can be sometimes, I know that, man, when somebody asks me for an autograph and so forth, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure I take a picture, get an autograph, whatever they want. I'm gonna try to make that happen. So, and I'll go grab other people if I need to.
Because those moments last as a fan. Like you still remember that meeting Buddy Rich. You will always remember that. I've met other people who were great, and my early idol was Gene Simmons. I wanted to be Gene Simmons, and our last meeting he was an asshole, and that's it. It's done. I mean, I got my revenge. We've talked a little bit about that on the show. But it's just sad. Sad.
Yeah. I got to meet Rod Morgenstein when he was. Great story about. We got a phone call. We were the go-to band in Denver for many years when the opening act would fall off and they had a show coming to town. We need an opening act. Call Jag Panzer. They'll do it. Sure, we'll do it. So I get a call. I'm at work, and it's the guys from Phaline. They're kind of subgroup. And damn it, I forgot the guy's name. I feel bad. He recently passed away. But Winger's coming to town. We need an opening band. Winger. And they're asking me. And I'm thinking, Winger. Rod Morgenstein plays with Winger. We'll do it, I said.
Nice.
So here it is. Jag Panzer are opening up for Winger. And this was still when Winger was bringing in a lot of young, very attractive women, and they were still kind of it was kind of on the way out. So I think grunge was making its way in, and apparently they started looking a little bit sideways on. She's only 17.
Yeah.
They started getting problematic.
Well, that didn't age well.
And,
Yeah.
Great band, and holy shit, talented band, right? So here we are completely destroying the stage, playing just this abomination of music as far as everybody is concerned in this whole auditorium. There was a few people that were like, yay! But Rod Morgenstein stood and watched our entire set from the side of the stage. That guy watched everything we did. And when I got off that stage, he said nothing but the nicest things to me. And to this day, that is one of the most uplifting moments I've ever had after a show. I mean, he just said the nicest things about my playing, about the band, and just completely a gentleman, and what a great guy. So from the horrible Buddy Rich, who is one of the greatest ever to walk the earth, to another amazing drummer who might be another one of those greats that you don't see that often, Rod Morgenstein. What a great experience that was. What a great experience that was.
That's great. That's great.
Nice.
Well, I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about your creative process. You know, we've done a live reaction to the Hallowed. We love the album. It's phenomenal. I think everyone's at the top of their game. It's like maybe one of the best albums you guys have ever done. Um, would like
Thank
to
you.
talk a little bit about your creativity, your creative process when creating drum tracks. You know, can you walk us through the process, like from beginning to song, how you interpret the music, how you consider the drum tracks for a song?
You know, it's so funny because you're asking me to analyze something that has really kind of become like almost a no-brainer for me. I mean that in the sense that I know when Mark sends me over a part, I almost know exactly what he wants to hear on that part, simply based on that we have been working together for such a long time now that we are so in tune with like, yeah, I will tell you there was one track on the prior record that for some reason we actually had to go back and change it a couple of times because it was like, no, it's not working. And I agreed. I was like, I can't quite get this to work. But you know, it's that process that I think is so wonderful. But if I were to dive into it really kind of deep, knowing what the principal songwriter wants to hear and the emotion that they're trying to convey is going to greatly dictate things like subdivision of beat and what I'm going to be doing as far as a really open or something where there's a lot more notes, right? And I think on the new record, I think you can definitely hear if you compare my work with even different Panzer records, like something like what am I thinking of? Casting the Stones, right? And to this record, just I'm playing so many less notes, right? I'm just playing a lot less notes, and I'm just leaving things so gapingly wide open in certain parts that and that was completely done on purpose, right? That was completely done on this kind of purposeful approach to kind of add, add the air that you really need to have in a mix to be able to hear a room, to be able to hear all the things that are going on with everything else, right? And so that was a conscious approach. So as Mark and I were working through uh, the songs initially, because that's really kind of how it starts. Harry kind of jumps in almost simultaneously as we're getting arrangements together and we're getting everything kind of in a workable state. And then yeah, we're just demoing back and forth. I'm sending usually audio and MIDI files so he can put his own drums on it if he'd like. But it's hilarious if you listen to the drum parts that he sends with like rhythm parts. He even tells me, "Oh, this is a terrible drum part. I don't want you to try to emulate this in any way, shape, or form." It was just easy for me to lay the rhythm part down to that feel, but you know what I want. And literally, that's the communication I get. You know what I want. Yeah. Okay.
I love that. It just shows a long relationship. You guys are like family, like brothers, and that
Well,
happens organically over time.
it is something that's not something that happens in just a few years.
Hmm.
That's what's happens over decades. I mean,
Decades.
of working together and just and we talk about music. I'll tell you, we talk about silly ass music. We talk about music that has no relation to anything that we're doing in the metal world. But it's amazing what we will find and pull out of the music that we say, man, did you hear that one part on that? I mean, I don't know. I almost feel like we have these like little secrets and so forth. But there's some stuff that was inspired on the closing track on the record that we literally pulled ideas from. I'll say it. We literally pulled it from K-pop. Literally
Hmm.
pulled some ideas from K-pop. And I challenge you to find what part that is. It is on the last track, though. It is on the last
Okay.
track. But when the part comes up, me and Mark always laugh. We always laugh and we joke with each other. That's that Blackpink section.
Nice.
I'm gonna
Nice.
have to keep an ear out for that now.
Yeah. K
Interesting.
Panzer. I think that's be the next album, right?
Dude,
Nice.
but you know, I think if you are truly a music fan if you are truly a music fan, you can find amazing things in any kind of music. Any kind of music. You'll find things that are like, damn, that's cool. That's really cool.
Sure.
I mean, I've gone down some weird rabbit holes with music and just like, I got to be honest, like, I can spend hours listening to like mountain music, like grinning and picking mountain music from being sung with a guy who has no teeth and he's banging out with his feet an amazing rhythm. You know, it's all like that whole soft shoe stuff. Dude, I am in heaven listening to that stuff because it's got so much realism and reality. And this isn't bullshit. This is his life. This is his life.
Yeah.
So,
we're of Appalachian stock. So
Sure,
we get
right.
bluegrass.
Absolutely.
Bluegrass is
Dude,
in our blood.
Absolutely.
My dad would take us to a bluegrass festival for I don't know how many years in a row. It was in Paris, Texas, when we lived in Texas, and that's where I would say I really kind of put my roots down as far as my musical roots. But every year for I think 5 or 6 years straight, we went. I remember the first couple of years, I thought it was the lamest thing ever. I was like, oh crap, we got to go to this damn thing. My dad would go and use his little recorder and record hours of cassette tapes that he would listen to in his car when he would drive around. Crazy, but he loved this stuff. And luckily I got the bug. Luckily, when music started grabbing my soul, I was so appreciative of those last number of years that we got to go and sit. And, you know, I got to go and sit in Preservation Hall in New Orleans and watch that band play. I mean, that Preservation Hall band is, you know, world famous. I got to sit on the floor and watch them play. Stuff like that, just I find utterly, that really touches my soul in a special way. That kind of music. So.
Dread,
Yeah, if you're open
something?
to it, man, there's a lot to be heard out there. I think when you're younger, you tend to be a little more tribal about the music you listen to, and like, this is real metal, this is real music here, and you kind of close everything off. But you know, yeah, as I've gotten older, like I've become a little more open to listening to different types of music. And yeah, you're right, man. Some of that like Appalachian folky stuff is like really, it hits me. It hits me in my blood, you know.
And it's haunting, and it's haunting in the most like hits you in this place in your soul that other music just has a very hard time getting to.
Yeah, because they're often singing about hardships and, you know, the hard life that they lived and a lot of the coal miner life and stuff like that. And it's really, it's really moving.
The celebration of little things in life, right? The celebration of little things in life, finding joy in the smallest tidbits of life, you know, and it usually means family and so forth, which is such a telling. So yeah, I'll go down rabbit holes on that kind of music. Mark always turns me on to really interesting stuff that also will span a wide gamut of music. You know, I love these bands in Europe that interpret Americana also, like the European interpret Americana music. And the name of that band off the top of my head it just escapes me right now. But I love it because in a lot of ways it's a caricature of Americana music, but it's done in such a way of affection. It's done with affection, not with a mean bone, and it comes across with such love, in my opinion. And by the end of this interview, I'm going to remember the band I'm thinking of. But that kind of stuff I think is really interesting. Also, it reminds me a little bit of that whole idea where food trends, right? You have food trends. You have like certain food trends in New Orleans, like how you make crawdads, how you cook up crawdads, right? Well, you have to cook it a certain way in the New Orleans way. You don't. It's done where you boil it and then you toss it, right? You boil it and then you toss it. Whereas other places will actually season the water and cook it, which is amazing. That's how the Swedes will make it. But when Hurricane Katrina hit, it was Katrina, I believe, and it scattered all those chefs all over the place. A lot of them went to Houston. A lot of them went to and you look at the burgeoning new foods coming up in those areas where they've taken basically that New Orleans way of doing things, except flipped it on its ear, and now they're actually using seasoned water to cook their crawfish and all that kind of stuff. I look at it the same way with music, right? Music that's kind of, it's weird because the Europeans influenced Americans when it came to rock and roll and blues and a lot of that stuff. We took it and kind of created this whole thing, swung it back to them, and then they curated it for a while. And it's just been bouncing back and forth, this kind of these different styles of music. And you look at, we brought up the whole term, K-pop and so forth. You listen to those styles of music, and there's some brilliant songwriters in those scenes writing some actually very good, powerful music. But it's all stuff that's just been done before, but they're just taking it and making their own, right? They're not doing anything new necessarily.
Like
they're
baby
just
metal.
taking it and
Right.
exactly.
A combination of this
like
great J-pop and really good heavy metal.
Yeah.
And like cutesy anime girls singing. It's like the best of all these worlds. I'm like,
It's
it
the
just blew
weirdest
my
thing,
mind.
but it works.
Yeah.
It absolutely works. It absolutely
and they
works.
are like riding the
absolutely
wave. They're so good and it's so entertaining, and it is a bizarre mix that like only in Japan.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, I think what would save, I save, like, metal doesn't need saving. Let me step back. I think metal would be so much better served, though, if its fan base was a little more open to other types of music. Because I have found that, boy, there's a lot of heavy metal fans that are just into a very narrow, specific type of metal, and how much they're missing by not being open to other things, and immediately discounting it because you think it's somehow pandering, or it's not real or legitimate, or whatever your feelings about that music. You can find good things in everything. You can find good things in everything.
Oh yeah,
So,
I agree. I'd like to change gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about touring. We know you have a lot of good touring stories. So, do you prefer smaller, intimate venues or larger arenas when you play?
fuck that. The bigger the better. Bigger the better.
There we go. Nice.
Um, look, it's kind of tough question. I mean, certainly I played in front of some big audiences, and that's amazing. And there's a certain electricity and all that stuff. But I think honestly, if you were to ask me, the most insane shows have always been a place that has maybe 600 or 700 people in it that are just absolutely going ape shit. I mean, that formula, a 500-600 seater that's really nice and full, but everybody's in there for one reason. Everybody's in there to sing along with certain songs, and they're going to do it. Those nights are magical, and when those nights happen, you know, so yeah, I can think of a few shows over the last number of runs that we've been over in Europe where it's been like that. I will say that, you know, number of weeks back in Wisconsin, I don't think the audience was as they've been there all day, obviously, so they were kind of exhausted. But as far as the band, I think we were really in shape that night. I think we
You
really
were
played
excellent.
well then.
You were excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even told the guys after the show, I said, "Hey, I think we all really played well tonight, and thank you for that."
Mark was saying how fun it was, and I know Ken has had a good time. You guys sounded amazing, and it was a great set too. Yeah, a combination of classic stuff, a lot of tracks from the Hallowed. It was a great set. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that things like that. I mean, there's been some shows in Greece that have been completely over the top. There's a show in Hamburg, Germany, that was rivaled those Greek shows, I would say, where it was just one of those nights where we were really clicking and the audience was just there and they were really present, and just, yeah, magical nights. Yeah.
When you play at these metal festivals, do you get to enjoy them as a fan as well? The whole atmosphere, or like, do you fly in, play your gig, and leave, or can you like hang out and get to watch other bands?
It's so funny because I think Mark does a much better job of the hanging out and enjoying the festival stuff. Mark, he does, because plans everything out and so forth. As a drummer, I tend to be really a little bit conservative on. I don't want to wear myself out. I do too much. I don't want to go and walk around for a bunch of hours and feel fatigued. When I know I have to play the next day, that kind of thing. So as a 55-year-old drummer, I think of these things. So I tend to be a little more. I don't walk around as much. But it's funny you bring this up because I never enjoyed a festival from the perspective of a fan, which really sucks, right? Because I would love to do that whole camping out thing. I would love to do the whole, plan my day out and just focus on checking out bands. Never done it, right? And so my brother was telling me about, how much he wants to go to a festival. And he goes, well, yeah, dude, you've been to a bunch of festivals, right? And I was like, yeah, but not from the perspective of a fan. I go to festivals and play music. And, a lot of times it is an in-out kind of a deal, unfortunately, where you show up, you play the gig, and you out. But, I always try to meet as many people. I got to meet Jason Bonham, I think, at the Bang Your Head Festival. I was really, simply because it was Jason Bonham, I was definitely starstruck a little bit, being that I am like a huge John Bonham fan. I had tickets to go see them at Reunion Arena in Dallas. We had already had the tickets, and then the announcement was made that he had died. And so we had to get a refund on the tickets we had. And so that actually would have been the first concert of my life, would have been Led Zeppelin in Dallas, which was their opening out night on, I think it was the In Through the Outdoors. Yeah, that last tour.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know Jason Bonham is playing with Sammy Hagar right now, and Joe Satriani.
I didn't hear that,
yeah, Joe Satriani on guitar, and the Van Halen bass player Michael Anthony. They're touring.
So are they doing like the chicken foot thing without Chad, or
they're doing a lot of Van Halen songs, all eras of Van Halen. Plus they're doing plus Sammy Hagar stuff, plus Chickenfoot stuff.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great gig.
Yeah.
What a great gig.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite food to eat on the road? We know Mark's is pizza. We've heard all about Mark and his
please,
pizza.
Mark, pizza. He used to have to bring beef jerky on tour because we wouldn't be able to find food that Mark would find palatable enough to eat. He's been the pickiest eater. And now I found out Ken Rodarte is as picky, if not more picky, which is a hilarious story because remind me to tell you what happened in Luxembourg because I will ramble on and forget. But so I actually like eating whatever the local fare is. Like if I go to a restaurant in Europe, I will generally ask, what's your specialty? What do most people eat here? And I'll eat that. I'll have that, right? So in some places it's pretty general, straight stuff, but other places it's a little more exciting. So I'm a real open to eating stuff. I love seafood. I love, all kinds of different stuff. I will tell you, I ate tripe once on tour by accident, thinking that it was a form of pasta. And that was a shocking and not such a fun experience. I did not enjoy it. Yeah, it was bad. But it's funny. I found out how picky Ken Rodarte is on this last tour because we had a couple of days off, so we decided to spend it in this wonderful place in Luxembourg and tour some castles and so forth. Do that very very metal thing, check out castles.
Do some photo shoots.
I think I found the next room I want to record drums in.
There you go.
Yeah, I did think I found the next room I wanted to record, but so I find out that Ken's really picky about sauces on his sandwiches or anything like that. So I was rooming with Ken at the time, and I was really sleeping delightfully, having great dreams, and he comes storming into the room. I don't know what time it was, wakes me up, and decides to get on his phone and start texting and tick, 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 the little noises and stuff. So I just get up. It's probably 10, 11 o'clock at night. Get up, get dressed. I'm like, damn it, I got to go. I'm going to go get something to eat. And I go over and I find one of these wonderful donor places. I call them Turkish burritos. It's basically, meat and wonderful tzatziki sauce and other wonderful things that they put on it. And Ken won't eat this stuff. I mean, he's adamant about it. So I find this place called King Donor. I go over there. They're open, luckily. I go in and I go, yeah, I want one of those. He goes, with everything? Doesn't speak a lot of English. With everything? I said, yeah, everything, everything. And he holds up the sauce and he asked me 5 times in a row, you want sauce? Yes, sauce. I give him a thumbs up. You want sauce? Yeah, I want sauce. Are you sure you want sauce? And I knew then, damn it, Ken Rogarte ate here earlier. Because he demanded no sauce. I don't want any sauce. None. And I told him the story, and he was like, yeah, I was there earlier that day. Yeah, I know you were there. I could tell. They're like, oh, dumb Americans. And I'm like, but I'm not even American.
Oh, that's awesome. We like to find like behind the scenes stuff and just how the machine works and just the kind of the things that we don't normally get. You know, this is
work or doesn't work.
right. You know, and that's what we love, these crazy stories. So like, I also like to want to know, like, what's in your rider? Like, what are some of the quirkiest requests or that you have in your band rider, like specific foods or drinks, clothing or
Actually,
flowers
we
like
don't
Mariah Carey? Do you have anything goofy?
No. We don't have any weird stuff in our rider other than our um, our habits have changed in recent years, and our rider hasn't been updated. We did update it just recently, but even on the last tour, we asked for a bottle of Jägermeister after every tour, after every show. That's like a requirement, and very diligently, every venue that we played on had a bottle of Jaeger, and we didn't even touch it. We did not touch it because nobody was drinking. Uh, um, yeah, everybody's kind of gotten boring and sober, for crying out loud. No, it's good. It's good for everybody. And but those bottles went unused, so I thought that was pretty hilarious. Now, I will still drink on occasion, but when I'm touring, I'm taking ibuprofen like it's candy, to keep the inflammation down in my knees and my ankles and wrists and elbows, all those things that start hurting after a while at 55. So I'm taking 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen every so many hours, right? And so I can't touch alcohol when I'm on the road. Otherwise, I think you die. I think technically you will die. So I think is what the downside with drinking and ibuprofen. So
Yes.
but I tried taking a couple of bottles back home with me because I was just going to say I tried taking a couple of bottles back home with me because I will say if you've ever had Jägermeister in Europe, it's way better than the stuff you get here in the United States because it's the real deal. So it has the opiates in it, and it gives you a really nice little wonderful warm blanket feeling when you drink it. It's awesome. So.
Dreadbull and I have a nice Jägermeister story, but we'll save that.
The last time I did Jägermeister, it was probably like 1998 or so. I don't know. Yeah. I drank a lot of Jägermeister, and then somehow, Montag wore it later. We'll just leave it. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Dread was in he was in no position to drive, night. So I'm driving home, and Dread has his head hanging out the door, just like, oh, and I hear this, and I feel this cold mist up on my face, and it was winter time and kind of snowy, and I'm like, Dread, is it snowing? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, I know. So I'm just like every few minutes, and I could see the car behind me. Every time he would, and the car's just like dodging, trying to get out of the stream of the Jaeger puke. Yeah.
So
good times.
Jägermeister does appear on a rider, and I tried to get a couple of them home because I really do enjoy them, and the European stuff is way smoother. It just tastes better, and like I said, it gives you this wonderful warm blanket feeling. And that's because that natural opiate that they extract from it on the stuff that they import here to the U.S. No, but I was so at weight limit. I couldn't even get one bottle back. I saved up a couple of bottles, but I couldn't even bring one. So I was really kind of bummed out.
Wow. Oh, shame.
I hear that you do enjoy some other things. That you enjoy some cannabis.
Well, it's funny. I haven't lately, to be honest with you. And I don't mean to be really super boring, but the last couple of trips that I've gone out on, I've been completely sober, and Actually, I would be surprised. I'm really surprised because I always thought that was kind of the thing, and not to be like an ophobie stogie, but I will tell you that every record since Fourth Judgment, I think, it's been me basically spending a lot of time out on the patio and recreating before doing tracks, and it's funny because I almost felt like that was just part of my routine, and I will tell you, it really did. It does help me put me in the correct frame of mind to record. It does tend to make me very tunnel vision on the task at hand. And I will say I've had some amazing experiences in the studio with that. With that said, didn't touch it on this last record.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm a fan as well.
Not,
I
not
enjoy
not a
I
bit.
enjoy all
Okay.
the strains. They're like Pokemon. I want to smoke them all. I want to try them all.
Hey,
Yeah. I guess
I
sativa for you in the studio. If you want laser focus, you want to get energy.
well,
Sativa.
I got to be honest. I'm not a sativa fan, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
Sativa is the
Hybrids?
stuff that tends to make me a little more. I do like hybrids if the balance is right. If
Hmm.
it's just right, it's perfect. But if it's a little too strong on the sativa side, I tend to be. That's what tends to make me paranoid or
Okay.
get that kind of anxious
It
feeling.
can.
Right?
Yeah, get the
I'm
time
definitely
slips.
more of an indica guy, where I'm naturally kind of high energy, to be honest with you. I'm
Okay.
naturally kind of like go 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 go. So sativa kind of throws me off a little bit,
Sure.
but here I feel like you brought it up, so I'm gonna share with you the story that I think is really kind of pertinent here. It's funny because um, it wasn't allowed in the studio. Ken Mary does not allow that kind of activity at his studio, and I had to agree to that up front. That hey, just so you know, blah blah blah. Just so you know, one of the reasons he doesn't do a lot of hip hop stuff is they always tend to bring big entourages in and everybody's smoking weed and stuff. And where his studio is located doesn't allow it, doesn't want it, and I respected that. So I told him, cool, no, absolutely. So um, so that was the impetus around. But I will tell you this: uh, it was a much more efficient process for me, and I mean efficient by it was cut and dry. Boom, got it done. Boom, let's listen. Good, awesome. Let's move on. There wasn't this whole kind of me getting in this almost like a trance or a state of mind that's almost like maniacal, where you just that's how I've recorded albums in the past. This one was much more. I don't want to use the term cerebral, but much more conscious. I guess is the best way to put it. Like everything was done in a very conscious manner. It didn't. There weren't any real happy mistakes per se. Everything was very thought out. So.
Interesting. All right. Um, we always like to ask, and you had mentioned Luxembourg. So we'd like to ask, what is your most outrageous road story that you can tell, that you can share? We've had some crazy stories on here. So the sky's the limit. Whatever you want to tell us, we would love to hear.
I, I I have some stuff that would incriminate me on probably some kind of international charge. I literally do have some of those stories.
Well, we don't want that.
We don't want Interpol
I
after
think
you.
I will.
Yeah.
I think I will keep those in my back pocket, so maybe we have a face to face. You can remind me, hey, what were those stories you were going to tell me?
Or after the show,
Cool.
when we're not recording anymore. Yeah.
So, what? It's funny. It's funny. Some of my most crazy stories, they're always related to music, some way or another, because you're in those kind of positions and so forth. Um, I am going to tell you a story, I think now, that is actually related to Jag Panzer. I might have to tell you another one because you might get disappointed at the story. I don't know. But so I joined Jag Panzer when I was still in high school. I don't know if you guys know this, but I had a whole senior year in high school. I joined the summer between my junior and senior year. So I'm in this heavy metal band that has an album out and an EP out, and whenever they play the local DJ's bar, sell out, and everybody knows who they are. They're local celebrities. And all of a sudden, I find myself in high school a chance to join this band. And the story of how that happened is also a really great one, and it involves the band that I was playing with at the time. There's a band called Salem Spade, which went along to actually do some really cool work that's recently been released in the last few years from a Greek label. I think it's called the Witch Hunt Demo or something like that. My brother's in that band, and some really great musicians. But so I joined Jag Panzer, and needless to say, you know, as a new member of the band, as the drummer, I got a lot of attention from a new crop of women that was very exciting to me, right? So, of course, I was playing the field, being a young single man, still in high school. Heck yeah, I was knocking them dead, left and right, having a great old time. Boom, boom, boom. This is amazing. This is amazing. And I had a school trip that I played drums for the jazz band in Shine Mountain High School, and very well-known, award-winning band. And we got invited to go to New York for the unveiling of the Statue of Liberty when it was redone. And then we were going to play a show on the White House, on the South Lawn of the White House. We were going to play a little event. And needless to say, the president, Ronald Reagan, was actually there. And so fast forward, me and my philandering after being in the band only for a few short weeks, have found myself in New York City with what I will just venture to say is a case of possible venereal disease. And I say as a joke, possible venereal disease, as in, yes, it was definitely a venereal disease. And if you know anything about what happens when you get one of these wonderful gonorrhea or non-specific urethritis. No, you guys don't know anything about any of this stuff. So, and I'm sharing this in the trust that you're not going to share this with anybody else. So,
well, other than our millions of fans,
between you guys, right?
So, right.
Oh, damn it! What have you guys done to me? So, I am in full flare on this trip to New York City. I'm still in high school. Oof. I'm in Jag Panzer, but I have a wicked case of something going on that is causing me great distress and dismay, to the point where I have a little baggie wrapped around my junk down there because it's messy. It's bad. It's
oh boy,
nothing good is going on. So we're playing the South Lawn of the White House, and I actually meet the President of the United States with a baggie wrapped around my penis because I have gonorrhea. And I shook his hand.
Well, it looks like you got one for the giver.
That's what Jag.
How about some jelly beans?
That's what Jag Panzer did to me. That's what Jag Panzer did to me. Jag Panzer did to me. How did you get here? Jag Panzer did that to me. I blame Jag Panzer.
I hope that like the advice given to Navin Johnson and the Jerk. I hope you saw a doctor and got rid of it. So.
Well, actually, I took care of things myself. I came back. I didn't want to trouble my folks, so I asked Mark Bridie, my guru, Mark Bridie, and he said, "Well, go to the free clinic and tell them I sent you. I've referred other people." And it was a horrific experience going to the free clinic. All those things that they say is going to happen, it's that and more. Humiliating questions and stares of judgmental stares and all kinds of. It was a horrible experience. But yeah, I got medicine, took care of it, and then
and got some condoms. They gave you some condoms for the road.
Oh, well, no, it was a great learning experience for me because never again. It was never again. It was never again. And it never happened again after that. So luckily. So condoms all the way. I'm very
That's good.
For sure. So.
I knew someone one time that reminds me. I have a relative that he got crabs and he tried. Speaking of taking care of it yourself, he tried to use Raid. He used Raid to get rid of his crabs.
Oh no!
Yeah, all I talked about was how bad it burned.
But the real kicker on that story, which is great, because mind you, I joined Jag Panzer when I was only 17 years old. I was only 17 when I joined. I was pretty young. The rest of the guys are a little older than me, right? So I took care of things, but my parents decided they were going to get me a new bedroom set as a kind of a, hey, you're getting older, you're going to be moving out, you need new furniture kind of a deal. Because my parents are great. My parents are awesome. But they found the pills. So they found my antibiotics, and they asked my brother about it. They go, because they would know everything that was going on with me. They asked my brother about it. My older brother is 2 years older than me, great guy, love him to death. Oh, he sold me out big time. Oh, told him exactly everything. I mean, I think he even told him the girl's name. He left nothing to the
Oh, wow.
imagination, right?
Wow.
Full disclosure.
So you would think it was full disclosure, and he told me. Oh yeah, I told him everything. So you think that my parents would have came and had a conversation with me about it? They never did. They never did. And you know what that tells me? Is they trusted me enough to know I went and took care of it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel they needed to add anything more, like somehow that I needed to tell. Why did I need to tell you? So we could go to the doctor. No, I went to the doctor. I took care of it. So it would have been, and that's the kind of kid I was. I would have had that kind of conversation with them. They're like, Rick took care of it. It's good. We don't need to have any more conversations with him.
Maybe once they heard you went to the free
Awesome
clinic, they're
parents.
like, he's been through enough already. Let's just, let's just let the kid go.
We found
Whoa,
his stash
yeah,
of we found a stash of napkins.
experience.
Yeah. Oh wow. Well, that's right up there, Rikard.
I'd already gotten caught a few times before that.
That's a good one. That's
So
good.
not only is it a presidential meeting, but it was also a presidential meeting with a with a little bit of extra sauce.
Wow.
For lack of a better term.
Sauce. But
Little did Reagan know what a brush with destiny, how close he came.
right. Dixony.
Just
Brush with Dixony.
inches away.
The president's got gonorrhea. The president's got gonorrhea. We have no idea how he got gonorrhea.
Well, it must have been those crazy high school kids.
I do. I have an idea.
Oh wow.
It was
All right,
crazy.
as
That
fun
long-haired one. That
as fun
long-haired
as
brother
talking
guy.
about your penis and discharge are, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
I have no idea why.
I thought you were
We have
going to come
gone
up with
down
some
this
kind of
road,
smooth
I
segue
think I'm
here.
gonna live
Yeah,
with
no, there's nothing. You can't smooth your way out of that one, man.
No, there's no
It's just like no, we're gonna change gears. This is a little thing we like to do some one-offs. These are questions that could be about anything. So what would you tell your childhood self about being a professional musician?
Make sure you're doing it for the right reason.
And what are those reasons?
For the music. Anything else, you're going to be disappointed.
Or get gonorrhea?
Or both.
yeah.
Those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. That's a euphemism, hand in hand. What movie?
But
Yes, have you seen over 20 times?
The Exorcist.
Oh, all
Wow.
right, good. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. What is your favorite book, or who is your favorite writer?
Dean Koontz, because he's literally the only writer I've really read any books from.
Okay. Which celebrity would you most like to have a drink with? It doesn't have to be in music. It could be any entertainment field.
Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
It'd be an interesting guy to talk to.
Yeah. What one song do you wish you'd written and recorded instead of the group who did?
Wow, that's a hard one. Limelight by Rush.
Nice. All right. Okay. And what do you love most about what you do? Is it being in the studio? Is it touring, or doing interviews on fantastic podcasts like this one?
It's hard because it's hard to say one or the other because everything is so connected in this. Just I find everything to be very connected. Um, I will tell you, I put more of myself in this last record than I ever have in anything else that I've ever done in my life. Almost to the point where I had to kind of step back from being creative for a little while because it was almost overwhelming. The for two straight, it felt like we were going hard and fast. What was the question again? What do I like the most?
Yeah, what do you love most about what you do?
aspect of it?
Yeah,
I
being
would
a,
have to say the creative process.
creativity.
The creative
Excellent.
process. Yeah.
Nice.
I
All
think
right.
that's yeah.
Excellent. All right, we're going to ask you some hypothetical situations here, Rikard. I want you to create a super group, not including anyone
Oof.
you've performed with. Which 3 or 4 musicians, past or present, would you want to play with?
Jaco Pastorius on bass. Eric Johnson on guitar. Chester Benningfield on lead vocals.
Hmm.
I don't know who on keys. I thought Chester just has an amazing, or had an amazing voice.
Yeah. I love Eric Johnson. I saw him open for Rush on the Roll the Bones tour. He's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So,
Yeah.
As a follow up on that, okay, I just had what style of music would you play with those guys? What do you picture?
Metal fusion. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, with that group of guys, it would probably be some kind of heavy jazz kind of stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
always said if I had my druthers and what kind of music if I had to pick a style of music I would have to play the rest of my life, it'd probably be like some kind of fusion, almost not Dave Matthews bandish, but certainly that kind of more improvisational kind of style of just kind of playing off of each other. I've had a few musical experiences like that with some really great musicians, and that's a different level of magic, I think, where you almost get to the point where you're reading each other's minds. And when you're in that state, yeah. And for me, the kind of that more improvisational fusion style would probably be the kind of stuff we'd be doing. It's funny because I've been, prior to going into the creative process with the Hallowed, I've been hanging out with some guys doing this stuff called Stunoid, and it's just bizarre, weird, a very kind of almost primitive music style where we go in, we write a song, and we record it, we put it out all within just a few hours, where there's no set takes. It's just, I found it to be an exciting process because it got me away from this whole notion of that everything has to be perfect. Everything has to somehow be perfect. If you're going to lay it down, it's got to be perfect. It made me kind of let go of that and like allow just things to happen. And it's amazing what can happen organically with music when you just allow things to happen and you're not so focused on necessarily making it perfect, just making it real, right? And so I thank those guys on the record simply by the fact that I think they made me open up to a lot of new musical ideas. So
nice.
Hey, that's cool. After a long career that you've had, that you can have a new experience like that can open up something new for you after all these years.
Well, I think playing in the environment that Jag Panzer plays in, which is a very structured environment. People have been really bashing bands for playing with guide tracks and all this stuff. There's been a lot of talk about this, but I got to be honest with you, we've been playing with click tracks since hell, we opened for Halloween on, when was that? GM and the Crickets. We're talking, this is going back to the 90s, right? We've been playing with click tracks live because we've been using keyboard sequencing. We didn't have a keyboard player, so we had to play with the click track so the keys would come in at the right time. And over the years, we've kind of perfected this into a very slick, simple way of doing it to where we can, if we have, violins and all that extra stuff, you probably heard it at the show,
Mhm.
the intros and all that stuff, they're all done
Yeah.
leveraging that. But 80% of the set, 90% of the set has nothing. But I still play with a click. I still play with a click track on these. And so it's what I'm getting towards is the experience playing with live is much more kind of it's very systematic. It's very, this is the way we do things. We don't deviate. We don't, we go out, we execute, and so forth. Whereas a more improvisational kind of environment, you wouldn't be playing with a click track. You would be playing with, just against one another. And that experience also is amazing. I mean, that experience is amazing.
Things get a chance
I
to
will
breathe.
tell you, if somebody comes to me and says, oh yeah, if somebody comes and asks me and says, you need to play a show in 2 weeks, do you want to play with a click or don't you want to play with a click? I'll play with a click. Yes, please. I'll do that any day of the week because frankly, for me, that puts it in a framework that makes it much easier for me to understand exactly what I have to accomplish to make things work, right? Whereas if you don't have a click, how many times are we getting together to rehearse? Those types of things, whereas once we've determined what the meter is and all that, and the time signatures and the tempo maps and all that stuff, honestly, I could meet you guys a few hours before we're about to go on stage, and I'd be able to play a whole show without ever rehearsing with anybody in that environment, right? And there are guys who do that all the time, obviously, but they're sight readers. I need it to be done in a format, then I can do that kind of stuff. So
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
but it's not nearly as emotional as playing off of one another the way like Eric Johnson and those guys do, and it's always a playing off of one another.
Yeah, you watch Stevie Ray Vaughan play live, and you could just see these, them just sitting back and just watching him do his thing. It's magic, Yeah, but he had a tight rhythm section.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. As a virtuoso as much as he was, you still need a tight rhythm section to keep that band going. All right, we're gonna
Your rhythm section even has to be better.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah, exactly. You had mentioned The Exorcist. We are heavy metal horror after all, so we know obviously you are a horror fan. So, other than The Exorcist, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Well, I think I'm a real snob when it comes to horror, and it seems like we go years and years and years before a real good horror movie comes out. And when one does come out, I get very excited about it. So, yeah, The Exorcist is something. Matter of fact, I was down at Best Buy picking up some stuff, and I saw they had the directors and the theatrical release in 4K on The Exorcist, and it was $11. I picked it up and bought it because I have it on Blu-ray, but I don't have it on 4K. So of course I'm gonna have it on 4K as well. So, Hereditary, that movie really I thought was an amazing movie in my opinion. Really visceral, really kind of scary the same way I thought The Exorcist scared me. And when I saw The Exorcist for the first time, which was I saw it way too young. I was still in middle school when I saw it. I think I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
For like a year. I mean, that movie
scared
me to the core.
I was 10.
Honestly, to the horrifying.
It was on TV. And it was the cut version. It still scared the shit out of me. Yeah.
Horrifying. So Hereditary definitely was it. Hey, I watched the last Voyage of the Demeter last night. I finished watching that. I actually was pretty impressed with that. I thought that Dracula was pretty horrifying. I thought that was pretty cool. So,
have you seen like The Witch? Have you seen that?
Oh, that's on one of my top. I would say one of my top 10 certainly list. Yes.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's so deliberately paced and so broody and just kind of moves toward this subtle creepy and it's almost feels like it's been borrowed. The subtlety is borrowed a lot from like the J horror. I love foreign horror. The stuff coming out of like Indonesia is truly terrifying. Some really scary stuff.
It is truly terrifying.
Yeah, and then but there,
And and to hold the talk about the foreign horror stuff, I have to say Swedes know how to make a good horror movie too, man.
oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, those Swedes, well, Scandinavians in general, just
Yeah,
I think they have
it.
a certain gene in them that just they Let the Right One In, the original
Beautiful.
version.
Love that.
Oh my God, it's
Love
one
that
of
movie.
that's another movie I've probably seen 20 times. The Witch I've seen at least 20 times as well.
Yeah.
I love that, both those movies. So.
Yeah, there's a Let the Right One In. It's the amazing story. I mean, these kids are wonderful actors, especially the little girl. But there's a relationship between them is beautiful, and I love the starkness of the outside. The scenes in the wintertime. Yeah, it is one of my favorite horror films. I really like Midsommar as well. But there are some really fun horror American. There's not a lot of good American horror, but I think It Follows was quite good.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Smile I thought was really creepy. That just came out a couple years ago.
So I haven't seen Smile yet. I've come across it a couple of times.
It's worth a watch.
Yet, so
it's worth a watch. Yeah.
Okay.
There was one scene that made me go, oh, kind of like fuck, which I wasn't expecting. It has some really nice moments. Have you seen Midnight Mass on Netflix?
Love it. I didn't think it nearly got the attention it deserved. Dark. I loved how dark it was. I loved the starkness of it. All those things that you mentioned, you really like. In spades in that miniseries.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And a great ending. I thought it had a great ending.
Brilliant ending. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Such a good. That guy's on a roll. He did. He's got a bunch of other stuff coming out, and I think the Midnight Club is really good. It's not as filled with horror, but it's a really pulls you in. The story pulls you in. It's really, really well done. But he's done some really good stuff. Some of the seasons of American Horror Story are really fun. Some are just for.
Yep, I agree.
Watching it, but yeah, there's some good stuff, but mostly it's the foreign horror that I like. I like Midsommar. I thought that was a really.
I mean, I was thrilled to death to find out that the director who came out with Bone Tomahawk, which I think is a great American horror movie, low budget. Bone Tomahawk, I thought was brilliant.
Yeah.
Mark tells me that the director, and I hate that I don't remember his name, actually is a metal fan and actually interviewed us at Milwaukee Metal Fest one of the years that we played there, and is actually a fan. Which I was blown away by that. I was like, "You're kidding me!" Yeah, Bone Tomahawk. Big props on that. Great American horror movie. Great American.
Our parent company, shall I say, our other podcast, Unsane Radio, that we go out on. That's audio only. We just did an episode on Bone Tomahawk, which will be coming out soon. Because that was the one I chose. That I'll let you know when it comes out, because it's I love the movie. I thought it was so well done. Such
Agreed.
So, but all right. Last question about horror. This is about Halloween. What is your favorite Halloween candy? When you went trick-or-treating, what was your favorite candy to get?
I was really partial to the $100,000 bars. I really liked the $100,000 bars for whatever reason. So, but I'm snobby because coming from Europe, I got to tell you the best candy in the world is from my home country of Sweden. They have and I know it's because that's what I ate when I was a kid. But there's stuff that you can't get here that just.
It's like watching Willy Wonka. That's the good stuff.
God,
the German chocolate, like that's the real fucking big chocolate bars. That's the real chocolate. Not the wax that's here in the States. You have to go to the world market and get the real stuff.
It's weird. It's weird. Americans seem to have a taste for a more bitter chocolate. So the chocolate that tends to be more popular in the United States actually has a chemical in it. I forgot what it was, but it actually makes the candy have a little more bite to it, and that's the difference. When you eat like a Swedish milk chocolate, it almost feels like it just melts, like there's no bite to it at all. It's very creamy, and that's the difference, right? And so Americans tend to prefer a chocolate that has a little more bite. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But I love like Swedish dime chocolate is just amazing. But I like their gummies too. They have these little thing called pilar, which are these little. I hate to say it. You think it's a marshmallow, but it's really not. But it's similar to that, but it has almost a gritty texture to it when you eat it. I will say that the Swedish candy, a lot of it tends to favor a lot on mouthfeel, like how the gummy chews and whether it has like grit in it or whether it doesn't have grit in it, which I find that very interesting.
Thus the popularity of Peeps and at Easter time. Yeah, the grittiness
Yep,
of the
the
Peeps,
Peeps.
right? You're eating the sugar and marshmallow.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've
Probably.
got one of our first games that we're going to play with you, Rikard. This is a game called
Oh God, games.
Blast Beats. I'm going to ask you
Oh
a
God.
question. Most of these are simple, multiple, pick one or the other kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're just going to go through. You
Okay.
just give me the answer as quickly as possible. All right, here
All
we
right.
go. Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger,
Favorite pizza topping?
pepperoni,
Paperback or Kindle?
Kendall,
PC or Apple?
PC,
Movie theater or streaming?
movie theater,
Favorite holiday?
Halloween,
Favorite ice cream flavor?
licorice,
Dog or cat?
both,
Batman or Superman?
Batman,
Avengers or Justice League?
Justice League,
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars,
Dracula or Frankenstein?
Dracula,
Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster?
Loch Ness Monster,
How do you like your steak cooked?
rare, medium,
Favorite movie snack?
medium rare,
Medium rare. All right. Favorite movie snack?
Raisinets,
Your favorite sport?
football,
Your favorite subject in school?
art,
Your least favorite subject in school?
English,
Your favorite board game?
Stratego,
Spielberg or Tarantino?
Tarantino.
Your favorite Christmas gift?
I got this racing game, this simulated arcade racing game, probably when I was about 10, 11 years old.
Your celebrity crush?
Oof. Right now, it's Anna de Armas.
Okay. And the last one, your favorite line or scene from This Is Spinal Tap?
Kick this ass! Kick this ass!
Nice. Nice. All right.
Uh, everybody has one.
Yeah, it's
know?
it's just so good, Yeah,
These go to 11. I mean, everybody says that. And I'm thinking, oh, no, but kick this ass!
Yeah.
Kick this ass!
Mime is money. Mime is money.
Got armadillos in our trousers.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I saw Tap when they came to Cleveland in '92 on the Break Like the Wind World the tour, and of course, Derek Smalls comes out and goes, "Hello, Cleveland." It was like perfect. Like, of course,
Nice.
you got to do the "Hello, Cleveland." So, all right, Rikard.
The road.
Oh, go ahead.
Road story. I'll leave you with I don't know what other thing you have coming up. But you mentioned Cleveland, so we were on tour with Ice Earth, Anvil, and us. I think I was In Flames on that one. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter for the story, so we'll just say I know Anvil was there because I know what happened the next day. But we're playing in outside of the unfortunately in the venue that that Dimebag got shot in. So that's
Mm.
right outside of what is that? Was it the Roseland or whatever it was called? What was that venue called? So needless to say, we're not in Cleveland, right? We're in the same state, but we're not in Cleveland. And we're kicking ass, dude. We're having a great night. The audience is with us, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, again, I got my headphones on. I'm kind of focusing on taking care of my business behind stage, making sure that I'm doing a great job back here. It seemed like the audience turned on me, turned on us. Well, apparently, Harry coined the phrase "Thank you, Cleveland" to the audience, and the audience immediately turned on him. And this happened in the last two songs that he said "Thank you, Cleveland." And when we were leaving the stage, people were flipping us off, "F you, F you."
Nice.
And then the next day at Katie, there was a note that I think somebody had left that there was the next day at sound check, somebody had written out a note what city we were in for Harry. Yeah, it was kind of hilarious, but that's one thing. Yeah, we could have told Harry where we were at and he still would have said "Thank you, Cleveland." He still would have done it. So yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great.
So we
All
didn't
right.
win a lot of fans over that night, unfortunately.
You had them until then, you know?
We had them up until that point.
Yeah. Our next game is called the Hot Seat.
Okay.
We play this one and sometimes people squirm and I'll get to that. So I'm going to name a band.
Oh, as if I haven't said really embarrassing shit already. You know?
Yeah. I'm going to name a band and I want you to tell me your favorite album by that band.
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
Like I'm going to know this. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's why it's the hot
Right.
seat.
That's why it's the hot seat. People are like, oh, I don't know that band. And they feel guilty. Like, oh, I should know this band. Like, hey, you know what you know, you don't. And it's all right. All right. Here we go. Black Sabbath.
Okay. Mob Rules.
Judas Priest.
British Steel.
Halloween.
Walls of Jericho.
Scorpions.
Blackout.
The Beatles.
Abbey Road.
Rush.
Oh, really?
They're my favorite band. I get it.
Honestly, Caress of Steel.
That's my
Nice.
favorite album. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opeth.
The Necromancer.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Now, here's where I am really embarrassed because I know a ton of Opeth stuff, but god damn it, I can't remember a record.
The seat's getting warmer.
It's all right. No problem. No problem.
I mean, Opeth is a very complex group as far as I'm concerned. It's like,
Very.
so
Yeah, their albums and they change. I love how they are evolving as a group.
yeah.
Their last couple albums have been phenomenal. I think Pale Communion I think is one of the most amazing albums I've ever heard. It's just beautiful, just amazing. So, okay, back to the hot seat. Dream Theater.
See, this is exposing me for how little progressive stuff I've been listening to lately. I started my career on totally progressive stuff, and I've shied away from it. And damn it, I know the album cover, the one that looks like the 13 Ghosts. Which one is that one? Damn it.
Oh, Scenes from Memory.
Scenes from Memory, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would go with that one, yes.
Okay. Iron Maiden.
Fuck you. This is a well.
This is an excellent game.
The crowd's turned on you. The guest,
That's right.
The guest is turned on you.
That's right.
God damn it. For me,
That's a tough one, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard. It's so hard for me because honestly, Killers has such a special place for me, but I don't think really Maiden was Maiden yet, really, right? I mean, so then I go to Number of the Beast, but then everybody says Number of the Beast is their favorite, right? Certainly is the last one with Clive. Yeah, Number of the Beast, damn it.
All right. Testament.
New Order.
Okay. Overkill.
Love the new Overkill record. Actually,
Oh yeah.
I really like
Yeah.
the new one.
Yeah. It's really good.
Scorch, I think it is Scorch. It was.
They're one of those bands that just get better all the time too. It's like, how the fuck do you guys keep
Crazy.
on making
And great
so
guys.
much better?
And
Yeah, and
great
Testament.
guys too.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh, we'd love to get them on.
Yeah.
So if you know them, Rikard, just say, hey, go on Heavy Metal Horror. Okay, Queensryche.
Oh yeah. Wow. The Warning.
Okay. Anthrax.
Among the Living.
Mm-hmm. Just a few more. Megadeth.
Peace sells, but who's buying?
Slayer.
Rain and Blood.
Kiss.
Which one?
Kiss. Yeah, which album of Kisses?
Kiss. So I'm not a huge Kiss fan, but I openly say that I'm not a huge Kiss fan. I was a Cheap Trick fan, like almost in being an anti-Kiss fan. Like, no, I like Cheap Trick. But I will say when I heard Destroyer, I was pretty blown away by Destroyer. So
All right, just a few more. King Diamond.
this is a tough one. I really like the Mickey D era stuff, but Snowy Shaw also did some great stuff. Them.
Okay, and two more.
Nice.
Motorhead.
Iron Fist, because that was the first Motorhead record I bought. Was Iron Fist.
All right, and the last one, Jag Panzer.
The Hallowed.
Excellent. All right. See, you made it through the hot
Cool.
seat. You survived.
A lot of old school. You liked a lot of the early stuff from most of those bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to do that because I want people to listen to what we're putting out new and so forth. And we certainly have a very vocal fan base that's very in kind of, they love Ample Destruction, and everything else is only secondary to Ample Destruction. And that, as an artist, that can be a little frustrating, especially when I really feel that we've done so much better work. But I get the nostalgia side of it, and I'm guilty of that as well. Like, I mentioned my favorite Motorhead record. Well, Iron Fist is because that was the first record I bought of theirs ever, was Iron Fist. So, is that the best record they've done? Probably not. Probably not.
But it's your favorite,
But for
right?
me,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I totally get it. Yeah.
for me, it's
We've only got a few more things to ask of you. So this
Okay.
one, this is our last game. It's called
Okay.
Name That Festival. Jag
Oh.
Panzer is playing a festival with two other artists. I'm going to spin the wheel of mystery to find these two other bands or artists that I'd like for you, Rikard, to name
Oh,
the
God.
festival that you're playing at. So let me pull up the festival. I want to share my screen here. All right, where can we share the screen? All right. Can you see the screen now, Rikard?
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yes.
There it is. All right, this is the Wheel of Mystery. We have everybody here from Mariah Carey to Slayer, so it could be anybody.
Awesome.
It's Jag
could be anybody.
Panzer. Yeah, so I'm going to give the first spin. Ooh, who's going to be the first
Could be
artist?
the most eclectic
Yeah. Oh, almost got
Oh,
baby metal. It's
oh,
Beck.
Beck.
All right, Beck. Talk
Okay,
about
Beck.
eclectic,
I
right?
really wanted to see the Bee Gees right there, but okay, we'll
Yeah,
take Beck.
yeah. Okay, so we got Beck, Jag Panzer, Beck, and looks
Oh,
like
there goes. Oh, and Queen.
Queen. All
Interesting.
right. All right. So we have Beck, we have Queen, and we have Jag Panzer playing at a festival. What is the name of this festival?
Good Lord,
Yeah.
that's a toughie.
Wow. Well, you have royalty at the very top of the bill, which is obviously Queen, which, by the way, that was the first live show I ever saw was Queen on the Game Tour
Oh, nice.
in Dallas, Texas.
Never got to see them live.
Name of the festival. Royal Destruction with some beer.
Nice. All right.
Okay, he
Excellent.
came
Way to
through.
go.
He
Way to
came
go.
through. That was a toughie.
Nice. Nice. Oh, yeah, this last thing, as we're winding down here, only a few more questions. This is about fandom. We are all
Okay.
fans of other artists. We'd like to know what your favorite piece of memorabilia is. Maybe a concert shirt or an autograph picture, something that you got from an artist you admire. What is your favorite piece of memorabilia?
It's funny. I do like collecting things a lot. And I collect things like movies and obviously things like that, horror movies. And I like owning things. So, the streaming thing's fine, but I like having physical copies of stuff if I can. But with that said, I don't think I have anything. Aside from, I did have Richard Christie sign the side of my Mapex snare at the end of a tour that we did. It was in Austin, Texas. Great show. Iced Earth. I think the guys in Flames were there as well. And that probably is pretty important to me as far as a piece of memorabilia. But I did get a chance to briefly brush elbows with Billy Gibbons at Sweden Rock back in 2019, right before the pandemic. I guess it would have been right before the pandemic. And I actually had dinner at the same table that Billy Gibbons was sitting at. And he actually looked over at me and he stroked his beard and kind of nodded at me. And he gave me the beard approval, which
Oh, wow.
for me,
That's pretty awesome.
the fact that I got beard approval from Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and mind you, I saw them play on the Eliminator tour in Dallas. Out in the audience, who would think I'd be sitting at the same table with him? Much less we actually played right behind them. Now, granted, they played a bigger stage than we did, but we actually played after ZZ Top.
So how did you react? Did
that
you
night,
give him a
so
beard
that was
wag
pretty
back,
awesome.
or
I nodded. I nodded as if it was no big deal, and then I got up and ran out like a little girl and back to the hotel, or ran back to the dressing room area to tell everybody about it. So,
nice?
you won't believe what just happened to me.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. Does that like make you nervous? I mean,
Those are probably two things I remember.
like approaching other those rock stars. I mean, does that make you nervous or hesitant to contact them and say, "Hey, I'm a drummer. I play with this band. If they don't know you, and just say, I do you approach other people in that same way, or do you tend to kind of just give them their space and not approach them?
I think when I was younger, I was much more apt to approach somebody than I am today, just because I kind of know how I feel, and I like, you know, I understand that people like their privacy, and I don't want to bother them and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I approached Nico McBrain when I was in high school. I met him at NASA, for example, and I came up and I was very nervous and couldn't have been nicer. couldn't have been nicer. I mean, just the nicest guy you could ever imagine. And as a little kid, that's stuff that you remember, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think anybody should not approach their favorite person. I think that's just part of it. And I definitely do believe that as somebody who people possibly might be looking up to or, holding in high regard, that there's a certain amount of responsibility that you have to be, positive and pay, pay them the respect that they're due. As far as if somebody comes and shares with them that your music or what you've done or is important to them, I think it's really important to respect that. So
Nice.
but I don't come up to as many people as I used to. I'm more reluctant. Like I didn't even like say a word to Billy Gibbons. I didn't say a word to him because he was holding court with some press and so forth. I didn't want to bother him. But the fact that he acknowledged me and acknowledged my beard and all that stuff, oh my God, I was just blown away. And just if I could have told him, you don't understand. I was a little kid standing out in the audience watching you guys play, almost 30 some odd years
Yeah.
ago, right?
Your beard said more than words could ever say. Anyway. Your beard,
Right. And Billy Gibbons, I thought he was like Lemmy. Like he was just fucking cool. He just was so comfortable in his own skin. He just
he might be the coolest
rock and roll.
You might be the coolest human being ever, and he just exudes cool. It's that whole it's that whole Texas rockabilly, that whole that
a quiet swagger, man. It's just excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Just amazing.
We're gonna wind things up here with just what are your plans for 2024? Your plans personally, or Jag Panzer? I mean, you just put out a hell of an album. Are you gonna hit the road again in 2024? Do some tour dates? You gonna come to Cleveland? Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland.
Thank you, Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, obviously the plans are that we want to hit the road. We were supposed to be, there was plans that we were going to go down to South America. That kind of evaporated at this point. So we've got some shows coming up in March, April timeframe. I think Harry's coming over. We're going to do some shows in Colorado. We might be doing a show down in Arizona. We're gonna try to take advantage of Harry while he's here. Who knows what other things might come out of that? But yeah, I mean, we're kind of we're kind of waiting and seeing kind of where the opportunities are going to bring us at this point. I mean, we figure we have hopefully a long touring cycle on this album because we feel so strongly about it. We feel like that we've really put out a quality effort that really reflects kind of not only where the band is today, but where we've come from. And I'd love to go out and frankly play shows where we're playing the entire album from beginning to end, take a little bit of a break and come back and then play all the other things that everybody wants to hear. I'd love to be able to bring that kind of a show. So we'll see. We'll see,
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
So. Yeah, perfect album to do that with.
You asked me about cat or dog. I do love all animals, but I will introduce you to. This is Ember Dragon. This is Ember Dragon Claw.
Look, Reggie.
He is awesome.
Look, Reggie, get that cat, Reg.
And I walk him every day. I specifically, he's been with me now for a little over a year, and I got a cat because that's all I know, Richie. I got him because I thought living in an apartment, it would be so much easier to have a cat as opposed to having a dog, and I needed a pet. And so I went and I found a cat that I totally jive with, and he's totally cool. By golly, this cat demands to go out twice a day. He wants to go out, and if you've ever walked a cat, you can't just walk the cat. You have to train them first to take the leash, take the harness, and all that kind of stuff. But once I got him out there, dude, it's meandering around. There's a lot of meandering around. There's a lot of me waiting for him just to, But dude, I love it. I love the cat. It gives me a little purpose in life now that my kids are grown. So
nice.
Yeah, I love both too. I had a lot of cats when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed cats. Different animals for sure, different demeanors, but I like them both.
Completely different.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I love dogs so too. I love dogs. So awesome.
Rikard, thank
Well,
you so
hey,
much for spending
this
time
was
with us.
this was riveting, guys.
We had a blast with you.
Of
It just
course.
so thank you for taking some time with us. If there's one final thing we can ask is if would you do a bumper for us? You know, this is Rikard Stjernquist of Jag Panzer. You are watching Heavy Metal Horror, something like that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You gonna give me the clips?
Go ahead.
Hey, this is Rikard Stjernquist with Jag Panzer, and you are watching Heavy Metal Horror.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being on our show. We're gonna do our outro, and we're gonna invite you to bring up the horns with us. You
Awesome.
can find Heavy Metal Horror on unsaneradio.com. Listen to full episodes or download to your device. You can find us on Facebook, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. On Instagram, look for Montag Lewis, one word. Our YouTube page, Heavy Metal Horror Podcast. If you're watching, that's where you're at. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you know someone who would like our show, tell them about us. This has been Montag, Master of Illusion.
Dreadbull and Reggie. Who needs Chop Top?
That's right. Screw him. And you've been watching and listening to, all right, Rikard, bring up the horns. Heavy
Metal.
horror.
This is Doug Helvering, and you have been listening to Heavy Metal Horror, the best podcast that you've never heard before.